Well, Missouri will celebrate its 200th anniversary of statehood in 2021. That's next year. A new book just hit the shelves just in time for Father's Day to give us a different perspective on our history. It is entitled Missouri, or Missouri, an illustrated timeline. 200 years of heroes and rogues, heartbreak and triumph. Sounds like our morning show. This morning, author and Fox 2 News anchor from St. Louis, Mr. John Brown is with us. Hey, good to see you. Hey. How did you become an author? I know you've written several books about Missouri history. How did you start that?
Well, it all goes back to living in about 20 different places, all in Missouri before I graduated from college. So really, any part of the state, I've at least lived there for a little bit. And somewhere along the way, I started making a list of famous people, which turned into my first book that's called Missouri Legends. And that turned into a great book. People were fascinated by all the famous people from big towns and small towns all over the state. And then as we came up on the 200th anniversary of Missouri, the publisher came and said, hey, let's turn some of those stories and our history into a timeline and get it out there in time for the Bicentennial. And it just came out right in the middle of a pandemic, but it turned out better than I thought. You never know how your writing's going to turn out until they do magic with pictures and everything else, and it turned out pretty cool.
What I like about it is for people like TV people and people with ADHD, it's one story per page, all in chronological order. It's great. You can put it on the coffee table, you can read a page or two, come back to it later.
Well, and that's kind of what the design was, you know, because there are books out there that are more intellectual, shall we say, that are deep dives on the Civil War, on the Depression, on all these things that have happened in Missouri. This one, I just wanted to get people excited about Missouri history, because maybe I did learn this stuff along the way and I forgot it or I never learned it. What I want is for people to be proud of our home state, see the amazing things, the amazing people that have come through the state, and realize that just because you're from flyover country, small towns, big towns, you can accomplish great things. And so I hope that's what this does, is gets people excited as we come up on this big 200th anniversary.
While you live and work in the St. Louis area, there's a lot of stories about the history there, but you have a lot of history here about Kansas City, Hallmark, the Plaza, the Hyatt Regency.
Yeah.
Significant moments and things in our part of the state that people need to know about.
Yeah, and what I did was, like I said, I don't consider myself a historian, I'm just interested. And so when I wrote this timeline, we found all the cool entries that I wanted to include. And then what I did was I reached out to more than 100 historians or experts all across the state and said, what do you think? What am I missing? What needs to be added? Not only is it my thoughts, but it's the thoughts of more than 100 experts in the fields all across the state. A lot of people from Kansas City helped me out with this. They said, John, you know, this is not a big deal, but maybe this is. And so I was able to incorporate those things too, which I think makes it a lot better than I could have done on my own to get their input about what's big and what's not.
What's the most fascinating thing that you learned while putting this together about a history of our state?
I think a couple of things, really. One, the impact that we've had on the country, especially from the Civil War era, because there are a lot of people who are really Civil War history buffs. I didn't realize how big of an impact we had on that. We were the tipping point, I believe, in the way our nation was going to go. But also, I graduated over around Jefferson City, not knowing the history of Jefferson City, not knowing how our state kind of grew due to the trails that were already out there. We're kind of a finger of trails that went out that kind of became the highways, and just seeing how our state developed over time. I mean, there's so many interesting stories that I never knew, even though I lived in these small towns. So getting to write it and now getting to visit with people from those towns, to me, that's been the most rewarding thing about the whole project, is learning more than I knew about a state that I've lived all over in.
John, we got to go out of time. I will tell you, I have a little professional jealousy. I've always wanted to write a book, never had the discipline. Maybe you've inspired me to do so thank you. Maybe you can interview me someday.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, you don't have to be all that smart to do it, because I'm not. I'm just interested. So the bar's low for me. You can obviously do it.
Here's the book. You can find signed copies of John's new book, Missouri. By the way, do you say Missouri, Missouri there?
I'm a Missouri guy, but when I go to the state fair, I end up going Missouri, just to keep everybody happy.
To tick people off sometimes. The new book on MissouriLegends.com. John, good to see you.